One man, 40 acres of freezing Canadian wilderness. Former television host James Alex just walked away from a highly polished, comfortable career in the big city of Toronto to pursue an off-grid dream. Right now, he is standing waist-deep in a rushing, icy river, shivering as the freezing water hits his bare chest. He wants to build multiple timber cabins on this rugged land, get married, and raise a family of 5 or 10 children. But as the bitter cold sets in, the harsh reality of the Canadian wilderness is hitting him. It is incredibly late in the season to start a project of this scale. The ground is on the verge of freezing solid, and winter is closing in fast. He must push himself beyond all his comfort limits just to survive.
孩子喜欢的男人我真的受不了.
And hosted events like the Backstreet Boys concert last year that was live streamed to 45 million people.
This rugged region of central Ontario is a beautiful but unforgiving landscape, marked by towering 1,000-foot ridgelines, deep valleys, and rushing waterfalls. The brutal, freezing climate is enough to scare off most humans and keep civilization at bay, yet it remains warm enough to support the beautiful hardwood forests of maple and oak that James loves. But do not let the scenic views fool you. This area has the highest concentration of black bears in the entire province, and the dense pine forests are home to gray wolves, mountain lions, wolverines, and moose. This is not a weekend getaway. It is a highly active predator territory where one wrong move could cost James his life, and he is completely alone out here.
I can tell you that.
Before this sudden escape into the wild, James built his entire life around a very different set of skills, working as a fluent Mandarin-speaking television host and actor in China. He spent years hosting national talk shows, starring in television series, and even commanding the stage in front of 45 million live-streamed viewers for a massive Backstreet Boys concert. But a sudden political conflict forced him to pack his bags and return to Canada. Leaving his glamorous life in China behind left him incredibly sad, but it also opened up a rare window of opportunity. This off-grid homestead is his chance to test a massive personal hypothesis that a physically and mentally demanding life in the woods is far more satisfying than the comfortable, stagnant safety of the city. He is trading the red carpet for red-hot survival struggles.
Holy, somebody's dog, like a lab with a collar, ran over.
To prove that hypothesis, James has to move fast. His immediate mission is to break camp, clear out a build site, and establish a rock-solid foundation before the freezing winter ground locks him out completely. He wades out of the freezing river, throws on his winter gear, and starts hauling a heavy utility sled loaded with his chainsaw and survival supplies deep into the woods. The terrain is a thick, choked mess of branches and fallen logs. Every single meter forward is a grueling battle against the forest. He has to fire up his green chainsaw and carve a narrow corridor through the brush, physically dragging the heavy sled over moss-covered logs. It is exhausting, bone-crushing manual labor, but to him, it beats staring at an Excel spreadsheet on a computer screen any day. He is determined to conquer this dense brush, no matter how much sweat and pain it demands.
Abe, what are you doing? What are you doing? No. You can't sleep here, dude. What are you doing? Whose dog is this?
But the wilderness does not care about your plans. Just as James is making progress, the chainsaw chain jumps right off the bar. The small branches he was cutting were at odd angles, jamming the mechanism. With the sun rapidly sinking below the tree line and freezing darkness closing in, he does not have the time to sit and repair a complex tool. He has to adapt immediately, switching to the raw, manual power of his hand axe and folding saw to hack his way through the final stretch. Exhausted and sweating under his heavy gear, James finally breaks through the dense forest wall and stumbles into a peaceful, mossy green meadow. The relief is so overwhelming that he drops his sled and collapses face first into the thick, freezing green moss to catch his breath, letting his tired body absorb the cold, quiet energy of the ground.
Base camp. Voila.
Once James catches his breath, the real site preparation begins. He straps on his red safety helmet and uses his hand axe and folding saw to aggressively clear the low-hanging branches from the towering spruce trees. The manual work is steady and rhythmic, but the raw physical toll of clearing wild land is intense. With a final, heavy cut, a small spruce tree crashes to the forest floor, marking a crucial step forward. But just as dusk settles over the desolate, late-autumn canopy, a sudden burst of movement shatters the silence of the woods. Breathless and startled, James turns to his camera. A stray black Labrador with a collar just tore through his campsite, looking terrified as if something was actively hunting it down. In this wild territory, a running dog means danger is close. This is a stark reminder of where James is. He immediately realizes he made a massive mistake by leaving his bear spray behind. In this territory, the local wildlife is a lethal quadfecta of apex predators. On his very first night sleeping in a tent here, a black bear approached him, leaving him completely terrified. He has heard gray wolves howling at dusk along the river valley, and local neighbors have reported active sightings of wolverines and mountain lions. As freezing darkness completely swallows the meadow, James is forced to pause his search for the dog to pitch his temporary tarp shelter, working quickly in the freezing cold. But just as he finishes, a miracle happens. The black Labrador suddenly returns from the pitch-black woods, wagging its tail and looking completely relieved to find a human ally. James cannot believe this friendly beast made it back alive.
Oh.
James is absolutely overjoyed to see the dog survive the chase. The friendly black lab licks his face as James laughs, realizing how close the animal came to being eaten by whatever was hot on its tail. The unexpected companion sits obediently beside him in the freezing night, cementing James's resolve to get his own massive guardian dog, an Irish wolfhound, as soon as possible. Inside the cramped tarp shelter, James inflates his sleeping pad, but the shivering dog has no intention of sleeping outside. It sneaks under the corner of the tent and curls up right next to his head. Feeling bad for the freezing animal, James wraps his own black puffer jacket over its shivering body. The bond is instant, and the cold night is spent sharing the small shelter. This is true wilderness companionship.
The trail is completed, as you can see. That took a hell of a lot of muscle power to do that chainsawing, hacking, sawing.
The next morning, James opens his tent to find a light dusting of snow and a thick layer of frost covering his axes, gear, and equipment cases. Outside, his new black companion is patiently waiting on the frozen ground. Day 2 is an absolute race against time. Once the deep frost sets in, the ground will freeze solid, making any manual digging for his cabin foundation completely impossible. If he cannot dig, his dream dies, and he will have to return to Toronto in complete defeat. James stands in the freezing morning mist, holding a shovel and staring at the snow-covered ground, knowing that his entire year-long experiment rests on what lies directly beneath his boots. He has to test the soil now. Every second wasted is a step closer to failure. If the earth is already frozen solid, his homesteading journey ends before it even begins. James sits inside his tent and carefully loads his camouflage shotgun with shells, securing his primary line of defense against the active predators in the area. Once his security is established, he introduces a lightweight titanium wood stove, carefully fitting the thin metal panels together. Outside, he rolls a sheet of metal to form the chimney pipe, then goes back inside to install a white fabric tent liner. The liner is crucial to combat the heavy condensation that built up on the tent walls during the freezing night. With the stove and pipe secured, a thin trail of smoke rises into the cold forest sky, marking the completion of his base camp. He has successfully created a tiny oasis of survival.